mountains today as drivers focus on the number of the
prices.
We have about 2 to maybe 3% of the world's proven oil reserves. 2% of the world's oil reserves. With only 2% of the world's oil reserves, oil isn't enough. If we drilled every square house and we went to the national...
Was he telling the truth? Well, a new report today says the proven reserves the president keeps referring to, just the tip of the iceberg. Says the U.S. has 60 times more oil than the president is claiming. To Dan Kish on which numbers tell the real story. Dan's with the Institute for Energy Research. Where do you get your 60 times what he's saying figure? What are you
times, Neil? Found. It's almost as though he's saying the only gasoline we'll have is the gasoline that's already at the gas stations, and therefore you need to go buy a Volt. That's the centerpiece of the policy. So basically, the Department of Energy's own resource estimates, the RAND Institute's assessments of what our oil shale resources are, the Department of Interior together, give us a number of
potentially all sources, not just a fixed amount under the ground someplace or under the Gulf. You're talking about fracking, all of that, the whole enchilada.
We're talking about the 97% of the government's land that isn't leased. We're talking about AMWR. We're talking about oil shale in the West. We're talking about a huge amount of energy that sits there ready for us to use, but for government policies. You bet.
All right, so let's say you tapped into all of that was available. Would it be, as the president seemed to include there, like an oil rig every other foot?
No, it wouldn't take that at all. As a matter of fact, because of hydraulic fracturing, the stuff that's going on in North Dakota, for example, that requires a lot less wells than in the past. So the fact is, we're just talking about areas where there's large potential of oil being there. And by the way, Neil, the Bakken in North Dakota is a classic example. That big oil field that currently is super producing was 25 times smaller just 12 years ago. Because of technology, because they've been allowed to look, because it isn't on government lands, it's now 25 times as large. Wow. If that happened in the U.S., we'd have huge Arabia.
Wow. Dan, thank you very much. Dan, I'll cash it if I want to. Cash it.